Bringing home a new baby is one of the most exciting things you will ever do. But coming to terms with the fact that you now have a whole new human to care for can be quite a shock. Today, I'm dropping in for a cup of tea and a chat with Beth Barclay. She's a Tresillian qualified nurse and the director of Mothercraft for babies. She's also an expert on how to get through the first 6 weeks. So Beth, there really is nothing like the feeling of holding a brand new baby in your arms. But the first 6 weeks when you're a new parent can be quite challenging, can't it?
Oh, absolutely. Bringing new baby home from hospital it's a big change for both mum, dad and baby, and a huge adjustment. Babies have, a new baby has very intense needs, and learning to meet those needs as a team and dealing with sleep deprivation and all the other things you're learning as a new parent, it's huge.
Is there anything you'd recommend that new parents should know before they're going into this?
Look, I do think it's one of those situations in life you have to be in it to get it, in terms of the moments of overwhelm, extreme tiredness, the emotional roller coaster. But I think if you can, look, just try and take a breath as often as possible and know that it will move along. It's trial and error, and look at some trusted support in terms of getting some, even if it's a short me time break, it might be half an hour to just go and have a cup of coffee or have a long shower and actually just have a long shower and not be having a 2-minute shower waiting for the baby to perhaps cry.
I can remember very clearly that there were quite often days where the shower wasn't even an option.
No.
I think that's one of the hardest things, is that the lack of time,
Yes.
personal time,
Yes.
is definitely very, very much a challenge.
Yes, and coming to grips with that too, and remembering to take care of yourself, because mum is totally focused on this new baby. But it's really important for mum to take care of themselves as well. So that's about, as good as nutrition as you can manage, lots of water, take rests when you can. I know that's easier said than done, but dad or family or support can help with that.
So let's talk a little bit more specifically about the behaviour of this new creature. Can we expect babies to fall into a pattern or a rhythm?
Look, I think in the first, say, 6 weeks, we're probably only talking about a rhythm, not a routine. New babies are working on a 24-hour clock. They cannot distinguish between night and day. So often when I'm talking to parents, those unsettled periods, and you can expect them at least one every day, will shift and change all the time. So it might be a very nasty 2 a.m. in the morning, or it might be the afternoon, but it will continue to change. So it's really about a rhythm in terms of a feed and sleep rhythm that will change and be probably fairly random for the first six weeks.
When you're talking about a rhythm, can you just explain exactly what you mean by that?
Well, it won't be a defined, I suppose, routine in terms of they feed and have a certain amount of wake time, and then they sleep for a certain time and they sleep right through to their next feed, etc. It'll be more learning the rhythm of feeding baby, reading their tired signs and when they've had enough stimulus and had enough wake time, putting them down to sleep, and those the length of sleeps will probably vary, but they'll only be short. So the rhythm will be, you'll probably expect to feed between 8 and 10 times every 24 hours. And there'll be all sorts of different sleeps in between that, so that gives you an idea of the intensity.
Yeah, I can remember tracking how often my firstborn son was feeding, and I recorded that in the first 10 days of his life, I had done the equivalent of a full working week breastfeeding him.
Oh wow. And you wonder why you feel a bit tired and overwhelmed.
Yeah, yeah, and you wonder why you don't have any personal time left
No.
in the day. It's because you're busy working.
Absolutely.
Nourishing this new child.
Yes, and how good does a 5-minute shower look?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just on their behaviour stuff, babies can't talk, but they certainly can communicate, can't they?
Absolutely.
How do they communicate?
Look, in the first weeks, and certainly with a new baby, really the only way they communicate is by crying. And in the early days, there's really only one cry, which is fairly intense. But that is their only way to actually let their caregiver know that something's not right in the world. So it's very normal for babies to cry. And look, there'll be times when baby cries and you've tried everything and you've thought you've met their every need and they're still crying, and that's still normal, you know, within reason. That's still normal.
What are some of the other signs that a baby might use in order to communicate? I mean, for example, my son had a very distinctive tired face. I could tell when he was tired.
Yes, and each baby can have a different cue in terms of, I've had enough and I really need to sleep now. So it might be a yawn, it might be, they might go quite still and stare and disengage. They might have some jerky movements and clench their little fists. And it might be all or some of those, but they're they're strong cues to say, I've had enough and I need to sleep, I need to rest my head. The average new baby can cope with about an hour up, that is wake time, usually from the start of the feed, which includes the feed, the burping, the changing, whatever, to when they're starting to give you tired signs that I've had enough and I now need to sleep again. It doesn't always go to plan, of course, but as a guide, it's about an hour for the first 4 to 6 weeks.
So one of the things I learned with both of my two baby boys when they were very, very young is that they can settle quite quickly when I would wrap them snugly. Why is that? Why do babies love to be so tightly wrapped?
Oh, I think it's definitely, and I'm a great advocate of wrapping little babies. I think it's that sense of containment and feeling safe and secure, not unlike when they're inside the womb, so it's emulating that. And they also, they're born with what we call a Moro reflex, which is their startle reflex. And that sense of containment in a wrap will manage and contain that, because for some babies that can disturb their sleep.
And what about their arms? It's about wrapping their arms but not their hips, am I right?
Yes, so having their arms snugly wrapped against their chest so that their little hands are near their face, which is a natural pose for them, but making sure that around their hips it's nice and loose so they can enjoy natural hip flexion, and we can head off any potential hip dysplasia. So that's really important when you're wrapping these days.
Yeah, because back in the day, they used to wrap the babies quite tightly, didn't
Absolutely.
they? Down with their arms down. And now it's about wrapping up.
Yes, and avoiding, you know, the term we call clicky hips. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Okay. So, what are your best tips on settling a newborn baby?
Oh, well, I think to be kind to yourself for starters, because a lot of that is really going to go out the door because you won't be successful every time, and that's really normal. Baseline for unsettled babies, and this is the norms, is at least one unsettled period every day between feeds and at least one pretty bad day per week. So be kind to yourself. You know, do your best to respond to your baby's needs. Engage your partner to help. I've often found dads are fabulous settlers of babies. They do really well with a given task and they're very committed. So you can strap your baby into the baby carrier with dad, show him how to settle, pat, soothe, whatever, and say keep walking until that baby's asleep, and they do. So I think a lot of teamwork is helpful here in order to deal with unsettled babies, because it's going to happen. That's life, and please expect it, it's normal.
Especially I think when that baby doesn't understand the difference between night and day. There's not really any rhyme or reason for anything, and so you sort of have to just learn to go with the flow a bit, don't you?
Yes, and it's hard. At 3 a.m. in the morning is a terrible time of the night to be dealing with a baby who won't go to sleep. But the good news is that it will change. It won't always be from 2 till 6 o'clock in the morning.
And they will eventually find a rhythm.
Oh, absolutely. And that often will correlate between their ability to distinguish between night and day, which is around 8 weeks when the circadian rhythm develops. And once that starts happening, we would then, and if that suits the parenting style, we would start to help implement more of a predictable routine to the day and the night.
Let's talk about the dads. What are some of the things that you love to tell new dads that they can do, especially in these crucial first weeks?
Oh, look, definitely it's very important for dads to bond with their baby as well, and also important for both mum and dad to support each other emotionally, because they'll both be tired. It won't be just mum, dad will be tired too. And dad will be going back to work and trying to work all day and be present at work and then come home and fulfil the role of dad. And maybe it's only just one little job every day, and it's often the bathing if they're home early enough, that where dad and baby, that's their thing. I think that's important. As I've said, I think dads are also really good settlers. You know, they might like to go and get the baby first for the first feed in the morning and change the baby and then bring the baby into mum. And just those little breaks. And also it's very supportive. It's good teamwork. I think it's marvellous. Get dad involved.
So that leads beautifully into talking about how new parents really do need to care for themselves. Even though they're totally focused on caring for this new little creature in their lives, finding that time for self-care is so important for both
absolutely.
Parents.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
But and perhaps parents can think about this before their baby is delivered, in terms of the little tasks. Certainly dad can do to help. If you're lucky enough to have trusted support from a family or friends, think about things that are really practical that neither mum or dad will have to worry about. So, obviously anyone that cooks and would like to bring food around and stuff, that freezer is fantastic. If your family, mum, mother-in-law or whatever would love to drop in and just take baby for half an hour so you can go and have a long shower and a cup of tea, all that will mean the world when you are really tired and you don't have a lot of time to spend on yourself and you're still taking care of yourself, both parents.
So, if new parents really find themselves struggling, what advice do you have?
Don't be frightened to put up your hand and ask for support or help or guidance. It's a very big new job, and like any new job, we've heard that saying a lot, it doesn't come with a manual. You're pretty much learning on the job and on the run. So, seek support, and whether it's family or trusted family or friends support, and just some grown-ups around to help. But if you need professional support, there are 24-hour helplines, there's live advice on Facebook, there are Tresillian and Karitani are wonderful family care centres, and of course your early childhood clinic, which is probably your first point of contact and call, your local GP. And if you would prefer to have Tresillian or Karitani trained nurses come to your home, then that's obviously where Mothercraft for Babies can help you. And my team of nurses will actually come to your home, into the privacy and comfort of your home, and support and guide and reassure you and get you back on track.
I think really for me, one of the best things I did was to reach out and ask for help. And I think, going from this strong, independent woman to actually not having a clue what I was doing, being able to reach out was so essential.
I think so too. And you I would say, just don't wait till you sort of hit the wall and you're really not coping. But we love what we do, and it's all about, our goal is giving mums and dads the confidence and the reassurance and some skills to enjoy parenting. And that's really what it's all about, isn't it? To the best of your ability, to try and enjoy it.
Biggest shock to the system in the first 6 weeks, physically, is definitely the sleep deprivation, and emotionally it's realising that you have the capacity to love another human being as much as you love your first child.
Settling your baby can be quite challenging. I've found that music can be a really beautiful thing to incorporate. So we have a beautiful CD called Music for Dreaming, which is by the Melbourne Symphony Orchestra. And it's a beautiful way that we used to settle baby at night. And I rely a lot on nursing to sleep, which is a beautiful thing for us to do. And also giving, when things are challenging, calling in extra recruits, so getting dad to help or whoever you've got around to help hold baby, just making sure that you're attending to their needs is the most important thing to do.